If America were personified into a deity and its cultural values transformed into religious virtues, just beneath hyper-individualism and materialism would lie entertainment. The American is his own God, his own idol, his own savior. The American finds hope not within religion or community, not even within a physical thing, but within a vision of his own future success, of a life he can one day live, and a person who he can one day become. The American, so preoccupied by visions of wealth and success, so overcome by hedonism and material, and so possessed by the worship of the self, is more susceptible than any other to intellectual bankruptcy. As an American who likes to believe that I myself am not dumb, there is no way I can deny the truth in the stereotype. While most papers or videos on this topic tend to focus more on funding or access to education, I think there is another huge factor that many people forget about, and that is culture. The way I see it, culture transcends things like the opportunity and resources someone has to be able to accomplish something. Cultural norms are the roadmap that we use to navigate our society and to decide what things are right or wrong, what things are desirable or fashionable, and how we perceive the world all around us. If education, for example, becomes seen as not as important or even cumbersome, unstylish, and uncool, people will then not have as much drive to focus on it. You can lead a horse to water all you want, but you can't make it drink. Commitment to education is optional, regardless of the amount of resources and opportunities available to an individual. This is why countries with less resources and opportunity, but high cultural value on education, consistently outperform Western countries in certain subjects. Developing nations' path to success is a lot more narrow, and the options are far less, so everything gets put into education, because no matter what, education is opportunity. So then, if America doesn't put enough cultural emphasis on education, then what does it value instead? Well, like the intro explained, hyper-individualism, success, and entertainment. Most of you watching are probably already aware of the first two, but might be confused on what I mean by entertainment. When I say entertainment, I don't mean Americans strive to be entertained, but that Americans strive to be the entertainers. While America definitely has its own fair share of issues that we are all very aware of, the opportunity, resources, talent, and just wealth in general that the country has is still honestly incredible, especially coming from someone who comes from a family of immigrants. The way I see it, America is like that child that is so spoiled that they are able to then waste time on pointless ventures or create a living around things not possible for most others.
Diamond earring came up in the ocean and it's gone. And there's people that are dying.
Think of the celebrities that are so privileged they are able to experiment with dead-end music careers, faulty business ventures, or spend the rest of their lives doing whatever they want, while everyone else has to go to school, get a good job, and go the traditional safe route. The rich and privileged have vastly more ways to make a successful living. In this same way, while most other countries have very specific avenues to make a good living, usually through higher education, this is not always the case in America. As bad as it can get here, there still is genuinely this mantra of hope and possibility that seeps into even the most cynical of minds. When you live in a country that consistently reinforces this idea of endless possibility and loves to constantly elevate examples of people who became successful in the most unconventional of ways or who escaped the most disadvantaged of backgrounds, you inevitably get this sense that there is a diversity of ways towards a wealthy, successful life. One of the best examples of this would probably be our mammoth entertainment industry. When an entertainment industry becomes as powerful as Hollywood, and when some of the biggest artists today come from some of the poorest corners of the country, the desire to become famous can sometimes completely eclipse the influence of the institutions of education, or at least the desire itself to get a higher education. When an entertainment industry has reached such incredible influence and power, and when new innovations like the internet have made it more possible than ever to randomly blow up overnight, the desire to get a higher education inevitably looks less and less necessary.
They're forgoing college and they're forgoing high school to move to LA and make a ton of money by dancing on TikTok.
Now that may sound dystopian to a lot of you, and honestly, I can completely understand that. But on the other hand, it's also kind of fascinating that with enough opportunity and cultural emphasis on what can be over what is, it then does kind of feel like anything is possible.
You know how there's like Beyonce and Jay-Z, famous people for music? He's like, well, we're famous for social media.
So now, the way I see it, a good portion of Americans care more about being entertaining, popular, and having influence over being educated. Somehow, in America, entertainment trumps education, and dumbassery isn't as stigmatized as it is everywhere else.
I love the Gen Z.
Progressives.
Gen Z loves Trump. They love Trump. He's an icon. Gen Z loves Trump.
Could you say icon again?
Icon. Icon.
When I think about this, I'm especially reminded of all throughout high school, where it was far more likely to find students purposely trying to be the class clown or who held popularity in such high regards instead of their grades. Now, anywhere else, this would be seen as extremely irresponsible and ignorant, as you are wasting your educational potential. And of course, it is still largely viewed that way here too. But on the other hand, we also do have real examples of people who didn't care for school and still became successful, and some who even dropped out and became billionaires. Not saying that's a logical thing to put your bets on, but just saying these are things in our culture that we are shown. With the introduction of social media, now truly anyone and everyone has an avenue to attempt to expand their influence and then possibly receive opportunities to generate income that can sometimes be even more than from going to school and getting a degree. Think of the Catch Me Outside girl or the kombucha girl that through their virality have received so much opportunity and therefore income, and they are now able to not only make a living and career, but make even more money than the average person who went to school.
Catch me outside, how about that?
Huh?
Catch me outside, how about that?
When I think about this, I'm also reminded of the literal explosion of SoundCloud or underground artists and the rise in popularity of being an influencer, entrepreneur, or YouTuber in general. The way I see it, in the modern American high school, you'll now find a good portion of students that are seriously betting on a career in social media, entrepreneurship, or becoming a musician. And while again, I personally think it's important if you're in this mindset to recognize the risks of those decisions over something more stable like college, the way the landscape of opportunity has been shifting, I can also sympathize and understand that line of reasoning. Now, another thing about Americans that really irks me is what I like to call performative dumbassery.
You did hashtag Jew talk, Israeli, Rosh Hashanah, fish head. Now, Trisha, you know you can't, you says rating my Jew lunch.
Uh-huh. I low-key got really sad about the Holocaust this weekend. Moses explained to me what actually happened, and I started crying.
You just found out about the Holocaust?
I had no idea.
For example, in high school, there were always these students that weren't actually dumb at all, but would play dumb to make other people laugh and, again, to entertain. So sometimes Americans aren't even as dumb, or at least as dumb as they lead on, but are just trolling to give some form of entertainment or value to their audience. A lot of times it's all about popularity and validation, another huge result of the massive influence of pop culture or celebrity culture. I think because of this influence pop culture has over modern America, Americans now just focus more on cultivating their personalities and their own personal brand. Above all, because of this perception that anything is possible here, and because we have real examples of success born of risk and devoid of education, in a culture that places such high value on popularity and entertainment, education becomes seen as more of an option, not a necessity, like it is literally everywhere else on earth. Now, I want to take a step back and say, I'm not attempting to say that America is just so utopian that you don't need any education at all, because that obviously is not the truth. No matter where you are, no matter where you're from, no matter where you live, education is freedom and opportunity. This is obviously evident in the massive amounts of students choosing to further their education for higher wages all around the country. Education will always be the most reliable avenue to success and a stable job and income, and I think that is important to point out. I just think that in America, there are now multiple avenues for success, and it's not just limited to education like most other places. Why go to school and go into debt for years upon years when you can possibly blow up, do a couple brand deals, and make upwards of $12,000 a month just because of your personal influence? Why stress so much about school when your favorite musician grew up dodging bullets and dropped out, but now owns a billion-dollar company? Why care at all about education when you live in a culture that promotes success, individualism, and entertainment above all else, regardless of qualification? Focus on your goals, take risks, never give up, and your hard work will eventually pay off. It's a very seductive mindset and gamble. But it really is a fascinating thought, though, in terms of historical context and how in America, you don't even have to be educated or even talented at all to become successful.
You are all often described as famous for being famous. You don't really act, you don't sing, you don't dance, you don't have any, forgive me, any talent.
But we're still entertaining people.
You can see how apparent this is from politics to who is able to become famous today. What a truly insane concept and sobering statement on the modern world of the 21st century.